What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode number 71. Before we get into that, I'm still astonished that I have an intro video with my face on it. And I've been doing this for a year, and I'm like, fuck, man, this is cool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild. But anyways, like I said, welcome to Recover Out Loud, episode number 71. Today we got an awesome guest all the way from Niagara Falls, Ashley Hoffman. How you doing, Ashley?
I'm good. How are you, Sean?
Uh, I'm great. I'm great. I'm hanging out. The weather's been shitty down here,
Oh,
so it's been great.
it's been beautiful here, like high 80s. A little too hot for me, but we're supposed to get some thunderstorms, which fingers crossed it puts the Canadian fires out because, like,
Yeah.
with the hot heat and the air quality, it's so bad.
Oh yeah. Father's Day was miserably hot down here, and like
Oh,
I don't know if you know anything about fabric, but polyester in the heat.
oh yeah.
I
Or
wore a
like,
Hawaiian shirt. That was a bad idea.
or like, I have spandex shorts. Not the greatest idea to wear those.
No, I was playing. I was playing a fuck. What game is that? A beanbag toss game. What is
Oh,
that?
cornhole.
Cornhole, yeah, I was playing cornhole like all day, dude, and it was just like hot, and I was miserable. I was like, "Fuck, it's so hot."
Yeah, I try to stay inside with the air conditioning, but it doesn't always work out that way.
No, no, not always, especially when the kids want to go outside.
Yeah, or you have to work. And I
Yeah.
work in a kitchen, so
Oh,
I basically I work in a 900-degree oven.
you work in the heat to go to the heat.
Yes.
God, that's no, thank you. Now today it rained all day, and like I keep my windows open. Breeze was coming in the room, and I was like, "Yeah, this is great."
Oh yeah.
It feels awesome. It feels awesome. I love listening to the sound of rain. It's very therapeutic for me.
Oh yeah. I enjoy the rain. It helps me sleep. I've
Yeah,
noticed.
yeah,
I
absolutely.
It's just like it rains. See ya. I'm in a coma for the night.
Yeah, rain is my ASMR. Okay.
Oh god. Okay, so with ASMR, I can't do it. It's just like I love rain, I love the sound of rain, but like the people when they're like touching their mics, it freaks me out.
Yeah, it's weird. I there's like two creators on YouTube that I watch. I'll play Minecraft and I'll put it in my ear and I'm just like ready to go to sleep.
Yeah.
But they don't do like all the weird like tapping and nail stuff. Like
Oh,
they do like eye exams or like massages and stuff like that. And it's just like something about it, and I'm just like, oh, this is so awesome.
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to get somebody from an ASMR community to come and join on one of these conversations.
Oh, that would be interesting to see.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
Huh.
Get the science behind it. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, like why I've always wondered like what is their thought process on doing it. And a lot of them, especially on TikTok, they just go hard and they get millions of viewers and I'm like, "How?"
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is they're doing it in a time of day, and I guess maybe it depends on like their viewers, but like the time of day, it's like 3 in the afternoon for me, and I'm like, you're telling people to go to sleep at 3 in the afternoon? Go on with your bad self.
No, thank you.
Go on with your bad self. If you can go to bed at 3 in the afternoon, fine, go for it.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, ASMR keeps me really calm. I love it. But we're not here for me. We're here for you. And so, would you like to give a formal introduction of yourself?
Yeah, sure. I am Ashley Hoffman. I am the host of 30, Flirty, and Not Thriving. I am also a part of the Antisocial Network, and I have recently been working on the website for the Antisocial Network to make us official.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
So we're really kicking ass.
Yeah, yeah, we really are. And that's the cool thing. That's how I met you. I met you on the Antisocial Network, and I was a
Yep.
guest on one of your shows, and on 30, Flirty, and Not Thriving. I had a good time, because I don't normally engage in those conversations.
Right.
All my conversations are recovery based or me sharing my story. It's not like me talking about relationships and how some of them suck.
Yeah. And it's like the whole idea is behind 30 Flirty is because I'm in my 30s. I don't feel like I'm where I'm supposed to be in life. And I like to break the normal, to make, taboo conversations normal, talking about sex, talking about relationships, because it's, especially with our generation, it's not something we like to talk about.
No,
Not at all.
no, it's a very, like you said, it's a very taboo subject. Being in your 30s and not, not feeling like you've accomplished the right things. My girlfriend and I have had that conversation before. She's like, I never envisioned myself, or I always envisioned I'd own my own house by the age of 30,
Hmm.
and like, I'd be debt free. But here I am, and
Yeah.
that's life.
Like we grew up, I mean, specifically, I remember I wrote a story in the first grade saying how, at the age of 22 I was going to be married, have two kids, and I was going to be a kindergarten teacher. None of that has happened. I only have one child. I'm not married, and it's I my I went to college and I have a ton of debt.
Right, right.
And my career that I'm in right now is not even what my degree is.
Yeah, yeah. You got a degree in graphic design, yeah.
Yep, graphic design and theater.
Nice.
Yeah,
Theater.
yeah,
I never would have guessed that. That's awesome.
yeah. So I am, and my day job is cooking at a nursing home, healthcare field. So it's like, woo, two ends of the opposite spectrum.
Yeah, you've got a little bit of technology, a little bit of acting, and some service work. That's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. That's that. Hey, hey, you're well versed.
Yeah, I always say, and I got this from someone, I can't remember who. I'm a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
I've heard that, and I feel the same way about myself. You're not alone there. Jack of all trades, master of none. That's
Yeah.
actually the Cav Scouts in the Army. That is their slogan because
Oh
they're really good at a lot of things, but they're not masters of any of it.
no, not at all.
No, like the infantry's great at moving, communicating, shooting. My job, artillery, we're good at shooting big guns. Cavs, they
Yeah.
kind of do a little bit of everything, but they're not really good at it.
And it's like, I know a little bit when it comes to like the army and stuff like that. A lot of my family is in the army. I live 5 minutes from an air base.
Yeah,
So it's like, ooh.
yeah, and you're not too far from Fort Drum either.
No, not at all.
No, that's a place I'd never want to go to.
Yeah, that's a hard pass.
Yeah, yeah, I give up on that one. But anyways, so what got you into podcasting?
It was through a dear friend, Vanessa, who she has recently stepped down from everything. She's struggling with her own mental health, and I wish her all the best and hope she does come back one day. But it actually was a vice to me to step out because I had worked in the music industry for some time doing graphic design and promotion with my ex. And after we had split, I didn't know who I was anymore. And I had to find a creative vice to, express myself because I didn't have that anymore. So I was offered to start doing it, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll see where this goes. And from there, it just kind of bloomed out, and I enjoy it and I love it, and now I can't get enough of it.
Right, right. It's crazy because one of my guests, not even somebody. I mean, I'm friends with him now because of the podcast, but like he pointed out to me, he was like, podcasting is part of your recovery, and it was in one of the sessions that I had, and I was like, what, what?
Yeah.
He was like, dude, he's like, you're hearing other people's story, you're sharing your experience with other people as part of your program, and I started looking at that, and I was like, holy shit, he's right.
Yeah, and that's when I realized, like, because I started podcasting roughly a month and a half after I started therapy, and I'm still continuing it. I'm 10 months in, and it was my next venture, and I didn't even realize that I was doing it, and that it is very much a part of my recovery as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you found any like common themes coming across like while you're going through your therapy? We'll get into some of the other, deeper things here in a second. But have you found any like common themes that happen, like what you're talking about it in like therapy, or you're thinking about it, and then a guest brings it up, and you're like, oh, that's weird.
Yes. A lot of it is to it was the process of like, not, you don't get over an ex.
Yeah.
It's, you just find a place where you're comfortable with them, but you're moving on.
Yeah.
I don't feel anyone has ever, you don't get over an ex. You always love them, especially if you share a child, which I do with my ex. And so a lot of my therapy was geared towards that, to move, help move on from that relationship, and, start venturing into trying to find a new relationship, I guess. And even with podcasting, like, there were themes like talking about, myself dating recently, and little things that I bring up in therapy, and then guests like, oh, let me tell you about this story. And I'm like, oh my God, because I would always do it. My therapy's in the morning, and then podcasting was on the same day, but in the evening. So I'm like, crap, I just talked about this 12 hours ago.
Stop parroting me.
It's more of like, are you listening? Are you my FBI agent? Are you listening in on my sessions?
Right? Right? I've had a lot of that happen too. And it's crazy because it's a lot of things that happen, simultaneously. And one of those things was something I posted today. I don't know if you've seen it. I was on Facebook, but I
Mm-hmm.
pretty much was talking about, not making it about me, right? Because I have a tendency to make everything that I encounter about me.
Yep.
And there was just something that popped up in my head. It's just said, don't make it about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. And then, like, in the past, like 2 or 3 weeks, it's just been like rampant of things that have popped in my life that are like, it's not about you. Here's time for you to learn. And I'm like, fuck.
And that's, yeah, I actually read that, and I'm like, oh, that like, it kind of hit me too. Um, just because we were talking about it before we started this a little bit. But I've recently started dating, and I get ghosted a lot, and specifically three guys that, I'm actively talking to, I've gone on dates with. All of a sudden this week, just no communication whatsoever, and I'm trying to hold that boundary of not reaching out and not making it about me. Like, obviously they're dealing with their own shit, whether they just don't have the courage to be like, oh, hey, this doesn't feel right to me, so I'm gonna, pursue other people. And I would just be like, cool, okay, have a nice life. It was great meeting you. But I don't know if it's just because we didn't learn how to date, our generation, that it's easier to just ghost someone and stop speaking to them than it is to actually tell them, hey, this isn't working for me.
Yeah, yeah, that's a rough, rough concept, but it's also, one of the things. And I had a lot of questions surrounding my soon to be divorce when everything happened.
Hmm.
And I think I shared this, but like I kept thinking, like, why does this continue to happen to me, right? Like, the
Yeah.
same shit just like over and over. Like, why is this happening to me?
Yeah.
And somebody put it so plainly that I just stopped, and I was like, that is the most simple answer. And I couldn't think of it myself. It wasn't meant for you.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? Like, so astronomical. It wasn't meant for you. That
Yeah.
that
It,
time in your life is over. And I'm like,
and it's so simple. And I learned this in therapy too, that people people grow at different paces. I grew in a different way than my ex grew. And I don't think he was growing fast enough for me. He wasn't maturing enough, and he wasn't stepping up as a father. So, but because of my own insecurities and my attachment style, I don't like to let things go. I'm a people pleaser. I will hold on to you for dear fucking life.
yeah,
And that's what happened. I was at a point where I was fed up with my ex's shit, but at the same time I would have never left him.
yeah,
Never in a million years. So him leaving, I actually said this in therapy this week, him leaving was the best thing for me. It
Yeah.
opened my eyes that, I can do this. I can do this on my own, but I need to find that safe boundary of to not be so attached to people.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the moment, I'm pretty sure that was really catastrophic for you when he left.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
And
I
earth shattering.
I didn't get out of bed for probably a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. No. When my book gets out, everybody's gonna be able to read what happened.
Yeah.
How I feel. Yeah. So I can relate. I can wholeheartedly relate. So let's go ahead. Let's dive into it, seeing as we're tiptoeing on the surface here.
Right.
What was it like for you in your struggle?
Um so I mean, we could go all the way back. But for me, I knew at a very early age that I was mentally ill. I knew I suffered from depression. That's my biggest one. Um, but I didn't learn about anxiety till probably like high school, whereas depression, I knew at 11 years old I was depressed. And more so recently, my therapist categorized it from PTSD.
Mhm.
And so it came down to, yeah, I watched my house burn down at 11 years old, and other events happening during that yeah, like I was traumatized as a child. And so for many years I thought, yeah, I can handle it, I know how to manage it naturally, and I did for, well, 11 to now, so like 20 some years. And I did it what I thought was healthy.
Yeah.
And in some circumstances, it was. In most, it probably was not. And it wasn't until my daughter's father left me that I actually realized that I wasn't safe in my own space, that I needed to reach out for help, even if it was just for a short period of time. And like I said, I've been in therapy for 10 months now. We're coming up on the year of since he left. And it has been completely an eye opener, because I was more open to medication where before I was not. I'm not anti drugs, but if I can find a more natural way
Yeah.
to control my emotions or anything that's going on, I'll do it that way before I give into big farm. Big pharma. But that's a
Yeah.
whole other.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah. But I was put on a very low dose, and I with that, and um like I feel so much, I feel better. Like there's days that I'm still depressed, I'm still anxious, um but I with my breathing exercises and everything that I've learned in therapy, I have found that healthy balance of how to manage everything. Um but there's always still struggles, and like I said, I didn't learn about anxiety till years after I learned about depression. And it's the constant worrying, and even now that it doesn't go away. And it's I the thing that always irritated me is, specifically my ex would say it, but I have heard other people say it, is they would tell me to stop living in my head. And
Yeah.
that, yes, that's true, because I'm more focused on the thoughts in my head than what is actually going on. But at the same time, they don't realize how those thoughts consume in everything. And my anxiety mostly comes down to financial. I'm not a wealthy person. I could have thousands of dollars in my bank account and I still worry.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's my biggest struggle.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to talk about is what certain things look like, right? So for me, I know what my depression looked like, and it looks different for everybody. What did
Mhm.
it what did it look like for you?
For me, it was mostly um where I could not do day-to-day tasks. my dishes would pile up, laundry would pile up. I could get out of bed and take a shower, but I would immediately put myself back in pajamas. I wouldn't even get dressed for the day.
Yeah.
And then it got to a point where I would get out of bed and just go sit on the couch for the entire day and scroll on my phone or watch a show the entire day. So that was my deep depression.
Yeah, that's mine was crazy. Like, and I guess the best way I can put it is you were talking about dishes and laundry and stuff.
Yeah.
I used to say, I can go do the laundry or do the dishes, but then there's more,
Yeah.
and that's what I see it as. There's more,
Yeah.
right? It's uncontrollable. I can only do so much. I'm only one man, right?
Exactly.
And that was rough. And then like one of the things that was like the hardest to deal with, and like being able to like look back now, I could be like, shit, man, like how did how am I here?
Yeah.
Was I would, and this is before podcasting, and this was like right as like I hit my 2 year sober mark. Dude,
Okay.
I could sit in my recliner when I lived in Alaska, sit in my recliner and just stare at a blank TV for fucking hours. Just like
Yeah.
I'm here, I felt like I was a shell of who I was, and it was rough.
Yeah. And it's like, and the things, the interests, and this comes down to a recent, like I have ADHD, and so I hyper focus on something until I no longer I get so overconsumed with it that I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah,
I have doom hobbies. I have a bunch of crochet stuff that it's just there. I don't know if I'll ever crochet again.
right, right.
They're just my doom hobbies.
Doom mountains, I like them. I like that. Yeah, and like one of the other things you were talking about, the things that are appealing to us, man. Like people would ask, how much are you eating a day, and I go, one time a day. And they say, well, why not more? I'm like, food's not appealing, and the only reason I'm eating one time a day is because I know that my body needs it.
Yeah. You just force yourself to do
Yeah, and sleep is non-existent because sleep's not appealing. So it's just like
it.
a fucking cycle of things that suck, and you
Yeah.
just can't really get out of it.
No, and yeah, like you said with food, for me it depended on what time, not time of the year, but like I don't know like how to describe it, but like I could either go from, starving myself for days on end, depressed, or depressed where I'm just binge eating
Yeah.
all day long.
Ben and Jerry's was my best friend at that binge eating time.
Yeah, ice cream, pizza.
Yeah,
I'm pretty positive I ate pizza for 3 years straight. That was my entire meal.
yeah,
Breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I funded somebody's college from McDonald's, dude. I would just eat McDonald's all the time
Right.
because I didn't have to cook. Yeah, I understand it completely. Um, did you ever get this question like, why can you not just be happy?
Yeah.
Fucking hated that question.
I and it's funny because my therapist actually talked about this yesterday. Um that what is happiness? Like your happiness is different than my happiness. But I also don't know what my happiness is.
Yeah,
Like obviously I the one thing that brings me joy is my daughter.
yeah,
But you know, and especially now like with dating and everything, it's like am I dating because I'm trying to find what I'm missing, that happiness, or am I doing it because I'm actually interested? I don't know.
yeah. Those answers we'll never know.
Yeah, and it's like what am I pursuing now? As I am I do believe I'm happy with where I am in my life, but obviously there's always that little bit that's missing that you're like, what could make me happier?
Yeah. Yeah, and I got that. I used to get that all the time from my soon-to-be ex-wife. Why can't you just be happy? I'm like, well, it's not like I don't fucking want to be.
Right.
I would love to be happy, right? I love to not worry about, things that are happening or just feel something because that's I felt nothing.
Yeah.
Uh, and that sucked. But uh, what I've learned is like happiness is fleeting, right? Like
Hmm.
happiness is not always a constant state of being, right? So like if I'm
Right.
like on this quest for happiness, I'm never gonna fucking find it because it fleets. It's there 1 minute, gone the next.
Yeah.
And I started on this quest for peace, dude. And like peace that brought me happiness. Here it is.
Yeah. And
There's
it's
your
like
answer.
I'm learning because my biggest thing with therapy is trying new things that I've never gotten to do and or experience. So like I've been hiking more. I'm going to be trying rock climbing, which I've never done. I'm exercising a lot more. I just went and bought a bike today. I haven't rode a bike in 12 years. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
that's and it's like, will any of this bring me peace or happiness? I don't know, but I'm willing to take the time to find out
Yeah.
because it might be that one little piece that gets me closer to, being in a say not a sane, because I hate the term sane, like sane between it, but beside insane, because like everybody has mental illness, whether they want to admit it or not.
Hmm.
And yeah, they might not be as mentally ill as you and I, but you still have a mental illness.
Yeah. Yeah. What is normal now?
Oh, I
And nobody can define what normal is.
no, it's I don't believe there ever was a normal.
No, no.
No.
Societal norm, but there's no like
Yeah.
base level norm. But yeah, no, I completely understand that, and I can respect that. Getting out of your comfort zone, doing things that you haven't done before in a long time.
Yeah.
Dude, I was like, I want to go try something new, so I went and bought a fucking Lego set, the Thanos glove, and I was like,
Yeah.
man, I'm gonna put this together in like 2 weeks. I sat down and put that bitch together in like 3 hours. I and it was so fun. I had a blast.
Yeah. It's like I love Lego sets. I'm a total geek. I One of my biggest things was I was into Pokemon cards for a while, and I not unfortunately, just for my own peace, it was something that me and my ex connected with,
Yeah.
and he left them here in my home for me to keep, but I was staring at them for like almost a month, maybe even two, and it irritated me because it reminded me too much of a time that we spent together. So I just packed it all up one day and I'm like, here, you can have these back. I don't want them.
Well, at least you didn't burn them.
No, oh god, no, because there was a Pokemon card in there that was worth $750. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely wouldn't have burned that. That's good.
I know I walked away from it. My justification too is I get to keep the house, so I gave him the Pokemon cards, and if he chooses to sell them, cool, he'll get his money back for the house.
Right, right. But anyways, so moving forward, how is that first counseling session for you?
Oh, it was hell. I there was I felt like, so people refer to the term trauma dumping. I'm a trauma dumper. And I just was like, here is everything on a platter. This is our first time meeting. Here you go.
Take all of it. I don't
Take
want it.
all of it. I hope you enjoy. And the poor woman is just trying to go through the intake questions, and I'm just dumping more and more onto this poor woman.
She's like, this is just an intake, right?
Yeah, she had to like stop me like 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, I'm just overwhelmed at the moment. She's like, it's okay. We'll get through it.
Sitting there just ugly crying, and she's like, "Hey, this is just the intake. I,
Yeah, I,
I,
I
I'm
want I
about
want
to see your
to
birthday."
I want to say for the first month and a half, every session was of me crying.
It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
But
Hey,
like I look back at it now and it's like I needed that in that moment.
yeah, yeah. A lot of people don't realize like counseling with the right counselor is very beneficial, right?
Yeah.
Because like you could have just gotten a run of the mill counselor that was like didn't give a shit, but
Mhm.
you got this really good counselor that works with you and that takes the time to work for you, and that's
Right.
important.
And it was funny because I probably spent an entire month prior to starting therapy trying to find a counselor or a therapist. Because the biggest thing, and you've probably run into it yourself, is if you're on a certain kind of health insurance, it
Yeah,
is not covered.
yeah,
And because of my income, I'm on Medicaid, which nobody wants to cover because they don't want to pay for it. And it's so frustrating. And with you have military insurance, which restricts where you can go to even be seen.
yeah.
And so I spent an entire month trying to find something before I was told about a service in our area that is specifically just for people in need. And it does go through my insurance, but it's just for people on Medicaid and stuff like that. So I called them up and I got in the next day.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I my biggest when I first started doing counseling, like for real, like I've been in counseling like all pretty much all my life because childhood stuff and the military stuff.
Right.
I started taking it seriously when I was like really like, hey, let's dive deep on some bullshit. Because that's what it was. It's all bullshit.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I was like, let's dive deep on some of this bullshit. Um, I started like picking apart like my counselors that I had in the past and like why I didn't trust counselors, and I vocalized that, and I had to fire one of them because the person just did the same thing after I told her like, hey, this
Don't
is
do that.
yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't like me being like, "Hey, let's set some ground rules." I was like setting boundaries, right? And I said,
Right.
I don't like to be parroted. I don't like when people repeat things back to me. You know, uh,
Hmm.
I just want your help. I don't want you to tell me what to do. I can figure out my own problems. I just need somebody to listen.
Yeah.
And she was like, "So what you're telling me is," and I'm like, "There it is.
There. Yep. Nope. you're
That's rule one and two.
you're micromanaging me.
Yeah. That's rule one and two. Rule three is we don't talk about Fight Club. Okay, but
Never talk about Fight Club.
never talk about Fight Club. But I had to fire, and then the sequential counselors that I had were all great. Even though this last one down here was awesome. But
Yeah.
you're right. You're right. There's a lot of services that don't take certain insurances, which a lot of people don't understand. They're like, "Oh, just go get a counselor." Well, you have to have the insurance to match that counselor,
Right.
or you're paying out of pocket, and
And
sometimes that's just expensive.
oh, it is. And that was one of the things that I could never get through my ex's head because like we obviously were having issues prior to him leaving. And I want to say for a good year before him leaving, he always brought up like couples counseling or me doing therapy by myself. And I always brought up, like, I'm like, are you going to pay for it? Because my insurance will not cover it.
Yeah,
And, and the other thing was, I'm like, are you going to find the time to do it? Because as of right now, you are not home. You are home 1 day a week, if that.
yeah, yeah, and
So
that's rough.
yeah, so and those questions never got answered. In 3 months we would be good, and then we would have a fight, and then it was back to that. And I'm like, we've already had this conversation.
Yeah, yeah. That's why and that's why I'm happy that I'm with somebody that actually takes their mental health seriously and like goes to counseling. It's not a shot at you, but like
Yeah. Oh no.
we're kind of on this, in the same wavelength, right? So like one of the things that actually attracted me to her or her to me, whatever. I was attracted by her when we were
Yeah.
talking, and she's like, I do a lot of I do counseling, and I was like, you
Yeah.
you're a unicorn.
Yeah.
Right? And it was because she's taken the time to recognize that there's something wrong and that she's processed through it. And for me,
Yeah.
that was huge because, other situations I was in, the person didn't give a shit about their mental health.
Yeah.
It was all go, go, go for everybody else and not taking care of themselves. So,
And that's one of the three guys that have currently stopped talking to me for whatever reason. That's what drawn me to him. Specifically on his dating profile, he was very open how he was in therapy, how he had kids of his own. So I'm like, okay, so like you understand the whole parenting aspect, where a lot of the guys I'm matching with don't even have kids. So I'm like, how is that going to fit into their lives? Because like my daughter is my life and that's never going to change. So you really have to be special and okay with being around someone else's child when you
absolutely.
don't even have your own.
Absolutely. You're 100% correct. Um, Moving on with the medication portion,
Yes.
because you brought it up before, and I have my own thoughts about this.
Yeah.
So, what were your thoughts about medication when you started taking, doing counseling versus now?
Um, Even when I first started, I was still a little pushed back about it. And I made it known. I was just like, I've somehow managed this long. If we can avoid it, that'd be great. But if not, I don't want to be put on something that is like considered an opiate.
Yeah,
'Cause that's just that those stuff I will not touch.
yeah,
Just because of I have an addictive personality. Addiction runs in my family. I've never been addicted to drugs or alcohol or anything that, but like you could say I'm addicted to food.
well, there's a
That's
possibility.
yeah. So like there's other things that I'm addicted to
Yeah,
under what addiction is considered. But as I kept doing my sessions, I realized that even though I was given the tools, the different breathing techniques, the books, affirmations, all that, it still wasn't enough.
yeah,
So that's when they put me in touch with a nurse practitioner. I expressed my concerns with her and I said, if I were to go on something, I'd want to go on something because my mother is on anxiety medication and has been for 40, 50 some odd years. I said, can we start with that? Because I know she's had success on that.
yeah,
And we did, but unfortunately, I had an adverse reaction to it
yeah,
in which I couldn't get out of bed because I was so dizzy.
yeah.
I would stand up and I would immediately fall. So
Ooh, that's
it got,
scary.
yeah, it got to the point where I was 3 days in of just pure dizziness. And I had to call her. I said, I can't do this. And she's immediately was like, get off the meds. We're going to keep you clean off meds for at least a week to get it flushed out of your system. And then we'll try something else. And that's when she gave me something else, which it's Zoloft.
Yeah,
A lot of people are on Zoloft.
yeah,
And I have had no reactions to it. And the only thing that I have realized now is because I have missed a day out of pure you just get busy, you forget to take your meds. Um I when that happens, I can feel it. I get emotional if things don't go my way. It's a helicopter.
yeah,
It's a helicopter who lost its one of its wings.
yeah, absolutely. Oh, I can understand that.
Yeah.
I shit. When I had my attempt in 2018, prior to that, I was in counseling and I was like, yeah, I want some meds to help me out, and they put me on Lexapro, which I don't know if you know anything about Lexapro, but that shit's the devil.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me really numb to everything, right? So like
Yeah.
you could be like, hey, dude, I just murdered your whole family, and be like, oh.
Oh,
That
okay.
sucks for them.
Okay.
And then, so then after my attempt, I was like, look, this isn't good. And then they put me on Wellbutrin, and Wellbutrin made me happy all the time. Oh,
Oh, it increased the endorphins in your body.
yeah, it took and did the opposite effect. And I was just fucking happy all the time. Like, even when I shouldn't be sad, I should be sad. Like,
Yeah.
I'm happy crying at sad movies, like, it's
Yeah,
fucking
like,
stupid.
oh, I'm sorry. But
Parents died.
your parents are dead.
Right.
Oh, okay.
That's exactly what I was like. And then so I started into recovery and got my new counselor. And I said, look, I don't want meds, like no more meds. And he was like, well, why? And I said, I want to feel what I'm feeling and learn how to navigate around it. Right.
Yeah.
Like even the anger, because my anger was really bad. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to learn like why I was angry and like be able to navigate around it, right? Because there's always a root to why we're angry. There's
Yes.
core emotion to why we're angry, and a lot of times men run to anger from frustration, or
Hmm.
being upset, whatever. And so I wanted to learn how to navigate around that. So I stopped taking it. And shit, it's been like 3 years since I've taken meds, and
Wow.
I have my days.
Yeah. Oh,
Trust me, I have my fucking days where I'm like, dude, this sucks. I really need
every
some meds.
everybody does.
Yeah, yeah.
And the and I'm for me the medicine has helped, and like you said, medicine is not for everybody. And I knew I got to a point where in my life like right now I need it to navigate. If I were to go off of it, maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. But um because after I had gotten on those meds, I had a good 6 months of just health issue after health issue after health issue. And like I ended up having to have two surgeries on one leg. And then you know, as, as female, we have our monthly. Basically, we have a period.
Yeah.
But for me, I was diagnosed at a very young age with endometriosis.
Mm.
And with that, I have had three separate doctors tell me that I also, two said I had PCOS, one did not, said I did not have it, which is PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Mm.
Um, and finally, my last OB, because I was having so much issues in January and February, she finally did the testing. No, but no other OB did the testing, and it was like, it's a simple biopsy. It sucks. Insurances don't want to cover it, obviously,
Yeah.
but to describe what I felt, I was a human hole punch.
Ooh.
An internal human hole punch. A lot of punching.
Oh, yeah.
Um, but that biopsy revealed not only that I had PCOS, but that I have a condition that is, I forget the wording of it, but it is the early signs of cancer.
Ooh.
There's cancer cells, but they're not developed.
Yeah.
So
Malignant.
had I not pushed and was like, let's do this, like I want answers, I could still have those issues. And, 6 months to a year from now, I could be being told a whole different, ball game of like, oh, hey, you have cancer.
Yeah.
So now taking those precautions and getting an IUD with high doses of medication to also regulate everything, that paired with my medication really changed my mindset and my moods. And like, yeah, I still have outbursts and get angry and stuff like that, but it's not where it was a year ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all do. We
Yeah.
all have that. One of the things a lot of people don't realize too is that like with a health with like a health crisis, like not a mental health crisis, but a regular health crisis,
Yeah.
it spurs a lot of mental health
Hmm.
situations and crises, right? So, like for instance, let's take somebody that breaks their leg. They're very active, right? They go out all the time. They ride bikes or they're into sports or whatever. They break their leg. They're
Right.
hung up. They can no longer do what they're allowed to do or what they want to do. So
Exactly.
there it starts on setting depression, anxiety, stuff like that. So like that's one
Yeah.
of the things when I thought of that when you were talking about the knee surgery. That's another thing that I kept thinking about was, some of the mental health stuff could have been assisted with that.
Yeah, and with the leg surgery, it was uh it, it had something to do with my veins. The blood is not flowing in my veins, so I had to have vein ablations.
Yeah,
So and now they're looking into to see if I have a blood disorder, because with my period and the leg issues, it's all coming back to my blood, and it's like,
yeah.
what is going on?
All right, you got a rare blood.
Oh yeah, and I do. It's A negative.
You're about to be superhuman.
Yeah. Like, it's funny because like I'll start talking to people and like tell them my interests and whatever, and they meet me, and like most of their reactions are like, are you real? Or like, I have been referred to as a unicorn myself, and I'm like, that's flattering and all, and like, yeah, I do see myself different than other people, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just rolling with the punches.
Huh? That's all you can do, right?
Yeah.
All right. So before we get going, is there any bit of advice or suggestions that you would give to somebody that's currently like struggling with their mental health, or trying to decide if they want to jump into counseling or not?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is everyone has to do it on their own time when they're ready. And if, just this little bit, can help encourage you to do it, I think everybody should seek some sort of help, whether it's speaking to a friend, a counselor, a therapist, just to see where they're at mentally. And like I said before, I think we're all mentally ill, but to what capacity is your own personal struggle. And, I think just, you know, everyone just, you need to reach out to someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right, Ashley, where can we find you? Not
Yeah.
physically, not physically.
Yeah. Don't stalk me, please. Unless you're 6 foot.
Save
I
that
am
for your show.
I am dating. But you can find me over at 30 Flirty and Not Thriving on Facebook. Basically, it's 30 Flirty Podcast. Some of the socials were removed, so I'm getting those back up. But basically, you find everything over on the Antisocial Network.
Yes, yes, you can. Yes, you can. Ashley, thank you for jumping in and kind of as a last minute guest. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. Thank you so much for having me, Sean.
All right, I had a good time. It was a good conversation.
Absolutely.
All right, and everybody, thanks for hanging out with us for this little bit of time. And till next time, much love. Be good. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which is a lot.